Just want to let you know that there's a massive trigger warning on this video, so you might want to leave. Just kidding, don't leave, don't leave, don't leave, don't leave, don't leave. How did you feel when I first said that? Did your anxiety go up a little bit? Did you feel a little stressed? Did you like, no, I'm not dealing with this today? That is why I'm not a big fan of trigger warnings. I'm sorry for tricking you, but did you know that a majority of people with OCD can trace their symptoms back to a stressful event or a trigger? I mean, those triggers have a history, but the real kicker is the more we try to avoid them, the stronger it makes OCD and anxiety. So what's the solution? Well, it's not what you might think. We're not going to learn how to dodge these triggers. We're going to learn to embrace them. And I know it sounds crazy, but stick with me because by the end of this video, you'll learn a whole new way, new perspective on dealing with your OCD and triggers. And you might think of these triggers in a whole new way. So let's break down what's actually happening when you get triggered. Your brain might spot something, it thinks is a threat, and it's like, boom, hit the panic button. You're flooded with feelings, intrusive thoughts start popping up in your brain. It could be literally anything. You saw someone that was choking on popcorn. You've never thought about it before, but now you start worrying about choking. It came out of nowhere. It's completely random. Your brain says you are now in danger, even if no logic is there for that. It feels awful. Your brain is really just trying to protect you, but it's not doing a great job. It's like an overprotective dog that just barks throughout the day, even when there's no danger. There are some triggers that are pretty sneaky. We don't even realize. Maybe it's a noise that sets off something, or it's a smell, or you think about your daily routines. For me, personally, I can say a trigger would be just scrolling reels, YouTube shorts. I don't want to see that, but I can't look away. But I don't want to see that, but I can't look away. Why is it showing me more of these? Well, it's because I'm watching it. I wouldn't be exposed to this otherwise. But we know that every time you give into this compulsion of like pushing the thought away, because that's what our brain wants to do, it teaches our brain that this thing is dangerous. It's like accidentally training a puppy to bark at everything. We don't want that. So here's the first big takeaway. We've got to recognize our triggers. We step back, grab a piece of paper, grab your phone, start writing down all these things in your life that may trigger you. Maybe you already have all the list in your brain. When someone says this specific word, I get triggered. When someone says this, I get triggered. If I see this on TV, if I see this person looking over this way, like it doesn't matter. If I drive far away from my house, it's trigger. If I touch this thing, it's a trigger. Write it all down. And what we might do is say from 0 to 10, how much would this trigger you if I said, you got to do it right now. Eat a piece of popcorn. Oh, that's a 10 out of 10. Well, we're probably not going to start there. Maybe I have a piece of popcorn in my hand. That's a trigger. My brain's remembering that moment that person choked. Cool. I have that in my hand, but we're not just engaging with a trigger. We want to actually move towards them. We don't want to avoid them anymore. I'm holding this piece of popcorn and I'm using responses. I'm not just going to hold it. My responses are take any threat and leave it uncertain. Maybe, maybe not, man. Maybe I'll choke. Maybe I won't. Maybe this thing will happen. Maybe it won't. Maybe I'll run someone over with my car. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll get sick. Whatever it is, maybe I sinned. OCD can take on any form possible. And our job is to either leave it uncertain or sometimes we just agree with it. I sure hope I choke right now. That'd be amazing. Oh, so cool. Well, I would make a huge scene. That would be amazing. Someone could just save my life and it would just, maybe it would change their life. That'd be pretty cool. I know I try not to make light of, real catastrophes, but the idea is I need to take value away from this thought. What would that look like? Maybe I got a big smile on my face. I kind of just act like I don't care. I'm trying to convince people I don't care about this. I'm only going to react to danger when I see danger. But if I push away every trigger, every thought, say, no, I can't hear that. No, then my brain is saying that's dangerous. And guess what happens? The rest of my life, I have to go, la. I know, don't show me that. And actually, those triggers get worse and worse and worse. And I know it's our normal reaction to just push away a trigger or to say, nope, I'm not dealing with that thing today. There's a reason why these TV shows or movies will say trigger warning, blah, 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 deals with blah, blah, blah. And sometimes they don't even say what it is. They just say trigger warning. And guess why they do that? They want you to feel something. They're setting the tone. And that's kind of what these triggers are doing. It's setting the tone for you to react a certain way, but you actually get to choose how you're going to react. And you probably already know, but the more we try not to think of something, the more we're going to think about it. But we try it anyway. We know it's not working. Let me give you an example. Think of someone who's afraid of germs. They start avoiding doorknobs, public spaces, leaving their house. Their world's getting smaller and smaller. But guess what? The fear of germs is getting bigger and bigger. It just keeps growing. So and that's how the avoidance cycle makes things so much worse for people. We may think we're problem solving when we're actually making things worse. And if you don't know already, the treatment is exposure and response prevention. We're exposing ourselves to these triggers on purpose to teach our brain that we actually can be okay. And we're willing to risk it because I just want to eat that darn popcorn. And if I choke, I choke. And if I don't, then I don't. And a lot of people hear this stuff and they're like, okay, I know it's like that's popcorn, but like mine's my eternal salvation. Mine's about my relationship. Mine's about being a bad person. Mine's about doing this or that or harming someone. Like it doesn't apply to me, but no, don't fall into that trap. It's all the same. Sometimes we're taking whatever the trigger is that somebody has and we're figuring out what does it actually mean for me? So if I'm worried about being dishonest and my brain says, if you watch this judge show, and is it called a judge show? Courtroom or whatever. And the brain's like, dang, that's gonna be you someday. You're gonna end up in jail. It's not really about the courtroom, it's about going to jail. So if I'm in jail, what does that mean? It means I won't be with my family anymore. Okay, if I'm not with my family, what does that mean? It means they're gonna grow up and they're not gonna have a dad. Okay, if they don't have a dad, what does that mean? We kind of keep following down the line. What is the actual fear? Let's do exposures with that. So it's not about using the courtroom as an example for me to face the trigger, but I'm using all the uncertainties of like, yep, my family might be alone. My kids might grow up without a dad. Maybe their life's ruined. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe I'm totally dishonest. Who knows? Cool. Smile. I love it. This is great. A lot of people, when they're facing a trigger, are just focusing on the surface level. We got to figure out what does it actually mean for you. The more you practice exposure and response prevention, the easier it gets. If you're not sure where to even start, I've got an online course for adults and kids now. Go check that out. It takes you through the process step by step. I'll put that down in the description. Here's what I really want you to know. Change your relationship to the triggers. It's not an all or nothing thing. You're not like, cool, I'm gonna go face everything today. Maybe it could be one thing at a time. This trigger is gonna be my buddy. I'm gonna write this word down 100 times a day, 1,000 times a day, throughout the whole day to say, I need to not care about this anymore. What would that look like? We're not going to avoid them anymore. Instead, we're going to face them and make it super meaningful. But here's something important as well. Some people have preferences. For instance, I'm not a big fan of watching the news. It just doesn't make me feel very good. It doesn't make me feel anxious, but that's just kind of not my thing. Like, I don't like it. That's a preference for me to not watch the news. It could trigger some stuff, but if I had to watch the news, sometimes I do. We can have preferences and say, nope, that's just not my thing. I prefer to not eat my food off the floor. Cool, that's a preference. But if I'm feeling so anxious and my brain's like, oh no, my food fell on the floor, and if I eat it, I'm gonna get sepsis. Sepsis, is that a thing? Can I get sepsis from eating food? I don't know, it's the first word that came to my head. Whatever, mercury poisoning, blah, blah, blah. Maybe I need to take that piece of popcorn that fell on the ground and pop it in my mouth to show myself, cool, let's get it, man. Awesome. But if it's just kind of a preference that's not my thing, maybe I don't need to do it. It can be tricky to know what to face and what not. And I look at anxiety as an indicator. If I'm feeling anxious, might be something I do, but I'm also not going to break the law. I'm not going to hurt somebody else. I'm not going to hurt myself. Those are the rules. Oh, and I'm also not going to break my morals or values. You think about jumping into a cold swimming pool, that's a trigger. You stay in long enough and it feels better. But something I always think about is like the water actually did not get warmer. We adapted to it, just like we're going to adapt to these triggers. The trigger doesn't get better. We adapt to it. We're going to find them throughout our whole life. So what do you think? What things do you feel like trigger you? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time after you click this video because you're going to watch it right now, right? I know you are. See you later. But here's what I really want you to get. What?